dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky. This is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, it's 6:31. I'm Will Puckett.
And I'm Cassidy Strickland. I hope your morning is off to a great start. Hopefully you've got a warm cup of coffee or some tea in your hand because it's a very chilly morning.
A very chilly morning, so let's bring Brandon in on it. And Brandon, we knew this was coming, but I don't think anybody was necessarily prepared to walk out their door this morning and it be just hovering around 20 degrees. But also some flurries are falling, which could set up for our interesting weekend ahead.
Right, and I've seen some reports, especially in the northern half of the area. Got a couple of delays up there. Menifee County and West Liberty's campus of Morehead State University showing a 2-hour delay. So maybe a little bit of bands of snow trying to stick a little bit. Also got a picture from Johnson County getting ready to post of a little bit of snow on maybe some back roads. So just kind of keep that in mind. Let's go over to the camera network to get us out the door this morning. US 119 on top of Whitesburg Pine Mountain. No major issues up there this morning. UVA wise, a little bit of visibility problems at times. Maybe a stronger band of snow went through there a little earlier in the nighttime hours. You see it here on the satellite radar loop for the last 6 hours. Snow still trying to transition in here, but I think it'll start to die off here the next couple of hours. Temperatures teens and 20s across the board right now. You factor in the wind chill, feels like single digits in Wise and teens pretty much everywhere else. 17, 16, 15 degrees colder than it was this time yesterday morning. 30 for your daytime high today, even with sunshine. Another cold night ahead as we get down to 19. Full forecast on the way here in just a few minutes.
Alrighty, we'll be sure to check back in with you once again. Thank you, Brandon. In political news this morning, President Trump visits the U.S.-Mexico border today as he continues to push for border wall funding. Yesterday, another round of talks broke down, leaving no end in sight for the partial government shutdown. That's now 20 days old. CBS's Mark Liverman has more from New York.
20 days into the partial government shutdown, President Trump is getting out of Washington. He's headed to Texas where he'll visit the U.S.-Mexico border. The trip comes a day after another meeting with congressional leaders made no progress in ending the standoff.
Our meeting did not last long.
The negotiations ended abruptly when both sides refused to budge over the president's demands for $5.7 billion for border wall funding. He tweeted that the meeting was a total waste of time.
There will be no deal without a wall. There will be no deal without the priorities the president has put on the table.
We saw a temper tantrum because he couldn't get his way and he just walked out of the meeting.
You're doing the right thing.
Earlier in the Oval Office, the president said he's heard plenty of support from some of the 800,000 federal workers not getting paid.
I hope we're going to have the situation worked out. But they want security in our country, and so do I.
They'll all miss their first paycheck this week. It's frustrating for Ashley Totten, whose husband is in the Coast Guard.
For me, it's just a lot of talk and no action.
It's the only branch of the military not being paid during the shutdown. The Coast Guard posted, but then removed a flyer with suggestions on how to make money in the meantime. It included things like babysitting, walking pets, and having a garage sale.
How do you tell an infant and a 2-year-old, like, hey, let's sell your toys because mommy and daddy need money?
Workers will receive back pay after the shutdown ends. Mark Liverman, CBS News.
House Democrats passed a bill to reopen the Treasury Department last night and plan to pass other legislation to reopen various agencies. But House Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he will not bring any vote to the floor that does not have the president's support.
Now, amid all of this, some may be interested to hear that new Republican Congressman Denver Riggleman is sacrificing his salary as the government shutdown stretches into its 3rd week. Now, the Virginia rep announced the news as partisan gridlock builds on Capitol Hill over border security. Riggleman says as a freshman, he is still finding his footing and looking for ways to help Congress and the Trump administration break the political impasse. Riggleman says until a deal is reached and the government fully reopens, he will donate his government paycheck to a volunteer fire department in Charlotte County that was hit hard by Hurricane Michael.
They were hurt by Hurricane Michael. There were 2 deaths down there also. I think for me, I've just been fortunate enough in my life that I can give that money away, and that's what I'm going to do.
With day 20 of the shutdown just starting, there is still no obvious end in sight to the stalemate.
In other political news this morning, more information on Paul Manafort's links to Russia was released by the special counsel. Robert Mueller believes he gave the data to Konstantin Kilimnik, and a source says Manafort wanted the information to get to a pair of pro-Russia oligarchs in Ukraine who had previously paid for his political work in their country. Lawmakers say this investigation seems to be producing results.
Paul Manafort took private Trump campaign data, and at some point in 2016, we assumed during the summer, shared that with a known Russian intelligence operative. This appears as the closest we've seen yet to real live actual collusion.
Sources say Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin is set to brief House lawmakers this afternoon on his department's move to ease sanctions on companies who are linked to one Russian oligarch.
Yesterday, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was not present for oral arguments for the third day in a row. The 85-year-old key liberal justice is still recovering from surgery she had last month to remove 2 cancerous nodules from her lung. Doctors found the cancer after Ginsburg suffered a fall. According to the High Court, there was no evidence of any remaining disease following the surgery. She has battled cancer in the past, but never had to miss oral arguments. Ginsburg is able to vote on the cases before the court by reviewing transcripts of oral arguments.
Well, back in Kentucky, lawmakers introduced several bills yesterday on the second day of the 2019 General Assembly. A bill with bipartisan support would make medical marijuana legal in the bluegrass. A Republican state senator supporting the bill says he threw out prescribed pain pills and admitted he smoked a joint 7 years ago when he was diagnosed with cancer. Senator Dansom said, quote, "When I left the hospital, they gave me that nice bottle of OxyContin. I threw it in the garbage can and went home and smoked a joint, and guess what? No nausea," end quote. And improving school safety is another issue lawmakers are looking to tackle this legislative session. It has been 1 year since a student opened fire at Marshall County High School, killing 2 of his classmates and injuring more than a dozen others. A team then traveled around the state asking school officials and communities for some ideas for solutions. Some of the measures that they suggested included increasing the number of school nurses, guidance counselors, and mental health professionals.
New security protocols were announced for the Kentucky Capitol building as the General Assembly session got underway. The move was sparked after large rallies in the Capitol last year as lawmakers debated pension reform. Governor Bevins says the new rules are intended to keep people safe, but some say the move will limit the public's access to confronting lawmakers and make their voices heard.
The Capitol building don't belong to this governor. It don't belong to me or any individual. This Capitol building is the people's house, and they ought to have the access they need.
Now, we will continue to track how the new regulations limit access to the public as the session progresses.
And the father of a University of Kentucky student who fell from a 4th-floor balcony has an update on his son's condition. Representative Chris Harris's son Corbin has spent the last 3 months in a recovery facility. Corbin suffered a traumatic brain injury after falling from the apartment balcony in August. Yesterday, the representative thanked everyone on the House floor for their support. Harris says he is hopeful that his son will be able to come to the chamber one day to thank everyone himself.
The wife of a prominent Norwegian businessman is missing in a suspected kidnapping. Her suspected captors have demanded a cryptocurrency ransom for her return. Anne Elizabeth Hagen, the wife of multimillionaire Tom Hagen, disappeared October 31st. Police have been working on the case for several weeks, but had previously asked media not to report on Hagen's disappearance as it could possibly endanger her life. 6:40 on Mountain News this morning. It is the kind of thing you would see in a movie or in your worst dreams. We have some pretty amazing video to show you.
Hot chocolate, hot coffee, hot tea, whatever you like to warm you up, make sure you have some this morning because it's cold outside. I'll help you plan your day in about 2.5 minutes.